Hey everyone, welcome back to Expert Matters, where we decode real career journeys and extract raw practical insights for students and early professionals. I'm your host Shruti, and today's guest is someone who has built products used by hundreds of thousands, led large cross functional teams, and consistently delivered growth through product strategy, UX, AI, and AI integration. He started out as an engineer and has since grown into a senior product management, building impactful solutions across industries, majorly in edtech, security, and enterprise software. So let's welcome our guest, Sreejith Menon. Thank you so much, Sreejith, to joining us today.
Hey, hello everyone. It's good to be here today. I think.
We have a lot of questions for you today. We actually at ISBR Business School have a separate specialization course for product management, and a lot of students enroll and look up to product managers like you to build a career into the industry because there is no first step described in the industry and taught them. So, of course, we take care of the theoretical and practical assignment part of it, but there are people like you who are going to motivate and, they will be looking up to. So we have a lot of questions for you today. My
Sure.
first and foremost question to you would be, you were a software engineer, and what happened to you? What mindset or skill set was the hardest to overcome when you shift your career from engineering to product management?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's mindset, right? You said it correctly. It's more of than a skill. It was more of the thought process that had to change because as an engineer, if you're trained to be an engineer, you're trained to think technical, deep in the technical aspects of it. I mean, both engineers as well as product managers, they're solving problems, right? But they're solving problem at different levels. So engineers are typically, when you're a junior engineer, are they would think deeper on the technical aspects of problems, right? You would solve problem technically because the logical solution is already done by someone else for you. But when it becomes a product manager, when you're the other end of the problem, right? Where you are more close to the users or the customers, and the technical aspect is something that you would think the least, I would say, because you empathize with the user, you identify what are they what problems are they facing, and how can you solve it, or what are other factors, what are the business factors. So you would think from a user's point of view, you would try to solve problems at a logical level. It may not be the what to say it may not be the efficient solution in terms of how it is implemented technically, but for you the idea is to be the voice of the customer and solve problems. So the thought process itself is different, so there should be a shift in thought process. So that was one of the challenges that I was facing, but to be honest, I wanted to do that, so I signed up for it, right? So when I used to be an engineer, I used to get problems which were already solved, ready to be implemented. So I was just writing code. That's not the case with every engineers. I mean, at least when you're starting your career in a big organization, maybe yes, you typically spend most of your time just debugging code or writing code without really looking at the high level view or logical solutions of a problem. So I wanted to go to the logical problem solution space. That's why I became a product manager. So that thought shift in thought process, the structure of thought that you have to give while solving a problem, that's the primary change. And it will be there. I mean, when I joined my first company as product manager, I used to still assess problems from a technical point of view. I used to think, hey, the backend would look like this, the UI will take these many days, and I used to try to estimate things. And it took a lot of training. A lot of iterations to overcome that engineering mindset. Come out of that engineering mindset to the product manager or more of a generic mindset. So it won't happen like overnight. It will only happen via training. Like as you're solving more and more problems in your daily life as a product managers, and you'll slowly start shifting towards the logical space, the business space, from the technical point of view.
I'm sure that's such a great challenge to have, to be honest. And I'm sure your transition would, haven't been so smooth, but you took care of it. And I'm sure many listeners and many students who are tech savvy but unsure about product roles, they will definitely resonate with that. Because engineers do aspire to get into product management roles, but they have a hard time transitioning and, understanding the smooth transition between an engineering role, because not everybody, like you said, is coding. There are different roles in engineering domain as well.
Mhm.
So that transition to product management role is a very, you're very aware about it and you beautifully explained about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they will resonate. In one of your previous roles, your UX redesign reduced churn rate to 10%. So for students unfamiliar with churn, can you please tell what is it? Why does it design have such a big impact on it?
Okay, so churn is simply saying it's people stop using your product, right? It can be typically it's used in a subscription-based business where we say we have a monthly churn rate or a yearly churn rate. Basically, if you have 100 users using it today, and next month on the same date, if only 80% of users or 80 users are using, then you have like 20 people who are churned, right? So churn is nothing but people stop using your product, and that's a red flag. I mean, every business has this, right? They'll definitely have churn, because not all the customers are going to use your product forever, right? So for different reasons people will drop out, but as a PM or as a company, you are trying to optimize that rate, right? So there are certain industry standards for each of the business. What is the standard, or what is the minimum churn rate that are standard across the industry? So if you are a lot of people are dropping out of your product, that means there's something not working, right? So in this specific example which you are saying, I think it's uh, it's not really related to each other from a theory point of view. A churn can happen because of many reasons. In my case, it was the UX of the product, where the product experience the experience was broken into different pieces, I would say. The product itself was broken into different modules, and it was very difficult to navigate from one to another. But if you see today's, it's an enterprise product, right? So if you see most of the products out there in the market today, they are great. They have great UX, right? Like Jira or any such tool you take, it has a wonderfully done UX, and people. I mean, most of our engineers are using IDs and a lot of such products. So UX had become a key pillar in driving the engagement. So it goes like you have to have a good UX, like not like the best one. It's not like beautiful UI. That's not what we are trying to achieve, but it has to facilitate the user's movement from one place to another, or it should help them achieving what they're trying to do. We call it like user flow, right? So whatever the user flow is, whatever the user is trying to achieve, they should be able to do it seamlessly within your platform. That's it. I mean, it can be achieved in any way. So when I say UX or design, it's more about the interaction, not the look and feel of the UI. So once the user is able to do it seamlessly, they engage with your product more and more. So if the user is engaging more and more with your product, then that means it will result in less churn, or there are lesser chances of that user dropping out. So that's why I said it's not directly related. But if you see, if design or UX is one of the reason for churn, then this is how it will impact, right? And typically we look at the rate of people who are dropping out, and there'd be like data points of why they are dropping out, how much they were using the product, are they stuck somewhere within between their user journey when they're trying to achieve something with the product, right? So we look at different aspects, and in this particular case, yeah, we understood that. We've even talked to a lot of customers who did not really renew, but they were happy to share feedback, right? So that's how we got to know that the overall product experience was confusing compared to other tools they use in their daily life, right? They're using Jira, then they are switching to our product, and the product experience was not really seamless. So that's where were to rework on the UX, and that helped to retain some of the customers.
Makes total sense. I love that, how you broke that down. It really shows that design is not just about aesthetics, it's more of a
Yeah,
retention strategy, like you explained.
correct.
Uh, you have built a lot of products from scratch and scaled it over to more than 3 lakh subscribers. What should a student know about taking an idea from 0 to 1 launch, or maybe 0 to 1 development of a product?
First of all, I mean, you don't get a lot of opportunities to build products from 0 to 1,
Mm.
because there are not a lot of companies who are doing this. Even if there's a company who is building a product from scratch as a student or as a candidate,
Hmm.
you might not want to join that company. It depends, right? You might be scared, like because the product itself is not there. So why are you joining? What is the future of that company, right? So it's there are very less opportunities to build products from scratch. But from a theoretical point of view, or from a generic, I could give you a generic overview, right? So it's all about, like, first you would understand or assess things, then you would build, and then you'd again measure or gather feedback, and then you iterate. So it's all about iterating, right? There'll be, like, again, we can block it into we could we could break it into three iterations. Basically, first iteration would be to understand the problem, very on paper, maybe, right? You would talk to the people and you would just document what kind of problem are you solving, and what is your solution. Is there any other solution in the market? So you would do market research, you would do customer research, and you just write it somewhere, because writing gives you a lot of context. Writing gives you a lot of questions and answers when you're trying to so if you are able to write it in a paper, then that means, okay, you're ready to go to the next level. Or even you could share whatever you have written, or in the form of a PPT or something, with other people who are helping you to build it, right? So first is understanding and documenting the problem. So the next iteration would be to build a prototype. Prototype is like, it's not a functional product, right? It can be even like a PPT, or it can be something that you have drawn using your in a paper, right? The idea is to build a prototype, and these days there are a lot of AI tools that will help you to, if you have this, whatever you have written in your previous iteration, you can feed into a AI tool, and it will generate you a very high level prototype. It may not be functioning, but prototypes are typically used to communicate the idea with maybe different stakeholders, like with your future customers, people who are ready to invest, or people who are ready to work with you, right? So not a lot of people would understand what you're trying to say verbally, but it's better to build a prototype, a high level prototype, and use that, right? We used to use like tools like Figma. There is another tool called Balsamic. These are like drag and drop tools using which you can create UIs, and you can create animations, like, okay, this is how the first screen would be. You click here, it will take you to this screen. So you can create a workflow using these tools. But if you see from a high level, it's not functional yet, right? So the second stage is to build a prototype. Again, like I mentioned, gather feedback on the prototype, give it to your users. We call it like shadow them, basically just over the shoulder, or just observe how they are using it, and make notes, get feedback. The next level is or the next iteration is to build a MVP, minimum viable product, which is, again, at this time you are going to build a product that is actually working, that's going to actually solve the problem, not very efficiently, but it should solve the core problem. To give you an example, I was reading about Swiggy the other day. So Swiggy initial days, they how they used to run the business is like they have a website where you can order food. The user can log into that website. I'm not even sure if there is a login, but yeah, they can go and order the food, and there's a backend team who would just take a note of these orders, and they're literally calling the restaurants and placing the orders like on phone. There are no fancy app or backend logic that handled the orders, and there were employees who would go to the hotel and then pick up the delivery, like pick up the order and then deliver it. So that can be treated as a prototype, right? Because it solves a basic, the core problem, like food ordering. uh, and they were running it in like few neighborhoods in Bangalore. So that itself will give you a lot of feedback. You would understand the problems, bottlenecks that you might face in the future. So MVP is like not very. It is a functional solution to your problem, but not very efficient. It may not solve all the aspects of the problem, but it will solve the core issue. So now we are at MVP, right? Again, the next step would be to roll it out to the customers and get feedback, and then you are reaching the one, right? So zero was like nothing and understanding the problem and that space. From there, after you create an MVP, you have feedback. Then based on the feedback, you would build the first version of the product. So in case of Swiggy example, they would build a app, Android app, or a iPhone, sorry, iOS app that would roll out to the users, and then you would also build a backend logic, like a backend system that can automatically place orders to the restaurants, right? So that would be the version one of the product. So yeah, this is the overall journey, and this is how you would build this. I mean, there can be other steps, but again, like I said, generically speaking, this is how it's gonna be.
Correct. Beautifully put. I mean, the frame you have told to 0 to 1 thinking, it makes it feel a little less intimidating because a lot of product managers, everybody actually, a lot of students actually, everybody wants to build product. It sounds super cool, but it's not practical because there are a lot of students, a lot of candidates, but not a lot of companies who want all these people to come and build products for them. So it sounds very, very attracting and very exciting, but it's not as easy as said.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about 0 to 1, you don't have to think of building a product. That's why I said 0 to 1 can happen for see, in a large product. Every feature, every page is itself is a product, right? So if you take Facebook, Facebook has feeds, chats, and I don't know what, videos and all this stuff, right? So each of them are itself a product. So definitely there are opportunities to build products from 0 to 1, but not like product, but yeah, certain modules within the product where you might be the person who's responsible for doing that. It depends on your skills, and it depends on where your interests are, what you're good at, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Correct. Makes sense. You've worked on both actually, the B2B segment of products and B2C segment of it. What's the key difference in building for businesses versus building for consumers, if there is any?
Yeah, there are a lot of differences, but I could think of is I think in B2B it's
Mhm.
mostly around, or let's start with B2C because that's how I started. So
Okay.
B2C is all around scale, I would say. Like there are a lot of um, I mean, a lot of people, because when you again take the example of Swiggy or Instagram, Facebook, right? Every a certain number of users are definitely using it, like every individual. That's what you're targeting. So B2C is all about scale, and it's all about your decision that you're making would be more data driven, because you don't get a chance to really go to each individual users and talk to them and understand the why, and how they're using it, right? So what you would really do is you would look at the data. You would have some systems like product analytics platforms that gather the user insights, and then I mean, you would look at the data, and based on that you would make decisions. So to become a B2C product manager, you have to be really good at data analytics and gathering insights from the data. And B2C also helps you to experiment faster. I would say you can, let's say you look at the data, you see something that you could improve, you can maybe deliver it like this week or next week, and then you don't have to deliver it for all the users. There are strategies like A/B testing, where you would only enable it for certain group of users, and you would evaluate how it's working, and then based on that evaluation, you would roll it to the larger customers. So again, that is data driven, right? So B2C helps you to experiment faster. You get a faster feedback cycle. The change doesn't take a lot of time. When it comes to and another thing compared to B2B, B2C, the buyer is the user, right? You when you're purchasing a product, let's say you're purchasing a course in Coursera, you are the person who are paying and you would be consuming that course, right? But in B2B, typically the buyer is not the user. What I'm trying to say is the decision maker or the people who would have budget is going to be your procurement team or IT team. Let's say a company is buying Slack, or buying in the sense purchasing Slack subscription, right? So the individual users who are going to use Slack on a daily basis, they are not going to pay for that. The company's head, the C-level executive or whoever is responsible for making such purchases, they'll be the one who's making the decision whether to purchase it or not, right? So in B2B, we always say the buyer is not the user. So when you're building a product in B2B, you have to think of different stakeholders. There might be like legal requirements, there might be some other compliance requirements. So there are different teams, different kind of people involved in the buying decision making process, but you also have to think about the end user, right? So again, take an example of Slack, right? Slack kind of works like a B2C product only, because the end users are individual users or developers, people who use it for a daily, right? So you have to optimize the use cases and workflow for the end users, but still you have to keep in mind that how this is gonna represent to a decision maker. So that that buyer versus user persona is there. It's strong in B2B. Another issue compared to B2C, what I've said earlier, is in B2B, the the time it takes to change things, release a new feature or to get adoption, it's a bit longer, because of course companies are using it and they are not really ready. They may not be ready to change how things are currently. So you might there have been scenarios where you build a feature and then you would go to each customer or the majority of your customers and take their approval before actually implementing that feature, because that might be impacting one of their core workflows, right? So but in B2C, typically that's not the case. You just push a feature and then you would give an option to enable it or disable it. Again, for example, Instagram, right? Instagram, initially, if you see, it used to be, used to show you only reels or content from people you used to follow. But then Instagram implemented a logic where they started showing you suggested feeds, right? So, but still, if you see, there's an option to opt out from that. So they didn't come and ask you, hey, can we enable suggested feed in your profile? They just pushed it out, and then they gave you a nudge saying that if you don't like it, you can disable it. So that's how things work in B2C. But in B2B, these kind of changes would go on a longer cycle of adoption. But it's easy to get feedback comparatively, because in B2B, you can go and talk to real users, right? Because they are ready to talk to you. Even if you don't go to them, they will come to you and then they'll ask questions. So it's a bit easy to gather feedback, understand problems in B2B, but it's really difficult to implement the solution and make them adopt it.
Correct. So the mindset you explained, mindset switch actually between logic driven in B2B and emotion driven in B2C. It's often missed. And thank you so much for highlighting that, because it's very clear. Because when you build product for the consumers, you have a different mental approach based on emotions and what kind of user feedback would they be presenting in front of us. So as a product manager, it's very important, of course, to take care of both the ends in a different way.
Yeah.
So that's gold. My next question is, you have driven a lot of serious revenue and engagement outcomes for the products you've built. But again, product management is a domain where performance parameters could not be observed practically. It cannot be measured in quantitative terms, right? So as a product manager, how do you, with your experience, how do you define and measure success in product management?
Okay, I think in product management, the success is tied to your product, of course, right? So your products, I mean, it may not be the standard, but I believe it's with the product. It's a product matrices that speaks how well you are performing as a product manager, because every day you're trying to you know, or at least every release, whenever you are doing a feature, you're not just doing it, right? You are trying to solve a problem, or you're trying to make impact a metric. So we typically measure the impact of what you are doing as a product manager by measuring the impact of that change in a key product metric that you are tracking. So every change, even these matrices are defined even before the feature is built, or even before the product is built. So we would say, okay, you want to improve the checkout rate in e-commerce platform by a certain percentage. So these are the things that we are going to do that, and we will implement it, and then we will start measuring it, and we see how is it working compared to the. I mean, we would classify it into two. How it used to work before the feature implemented, and how is it working currently? It's a number of people who are checking out like successfully. Is it increased or is it decreased? So it always, or most of the time, it depends on the product matrices itself. uh, and the product matrices can be either revenue driven, or it can be like an engagement driven. Again, this is related because I gave you an example, right? So engagement leads to revenue, because first the idea is to engage people with your product. The more they engage, the more the chance, the more the stickiness, the more they would retain your product. They might buy the subscription again. So sometimes it depends on where you are at the product journey, but typically product matrices are either user matrices, where you would look at the number of active users and number of people who are doing certain things. That may not directly translate into revenue, but somehow it will definitely translate into revenue, because you have to start tracking the people who are signing up for your product, and then optimize it, and then you would measure people who are actually doing some transaction in your product. Again, you will optimize it, and then the idea is to monetize that users who are signed up, right? So that's how it is going to be. For example, WhatsApp, right? So WhatsApp, initially when they launched, the whole idea was to bring as many as people to the platform. So they might be tracking number of active users and those kind of engagement metrics. But these days, if you see in WhatsApp, they've started monetizing that user base. They're allowing companies to send messages to you, business or WhatsApp business, and there are many ways to monetize, right? So now definitely they'll be monitoring both the engagement matrices as well as the revenue matrices. So
Correct.
it's all about measuring matrices of the product, and that translate into your success as a product manager as well.
That's super helpful. So, do you mean that the matrices or maybe the success of product managers and the product management team is layered, which is, user success, team success, or business success?
Yeah, I would say, again, it is different from different in different organizations, like I
Okay.
mentioned, right? Because it completely depends on what you're trying to do, or what the company is trying to achieve. Sometimes the company's mission was long term, yeah, it want to make the revenue, but maybe in the next 2 years, all it wants to do is to people to use the product, right? Not to monetize them. So typically, as a product manager, you don't have to really look at the revenue aspect of it, at least for the short term.
Correct.
So the success will be measured in terms of the growth, right? How many people are using it? But again, some other company might want to do revenue, so you focus on the revenue matrices. But
Correct.
just there are certain, since I've worked in a lot of startup, I mean, that's what I'm saying. And typically in startups, right, these doesn't really go as stated, because there may not be like a lot, there may not be enough data to measure, there may not be enough matrices to measure. So a success of a product manager cannot be really defined directly based on the matrices. That can also happen
Correct. That
depending on the size
makes
of the company.
sense. Correct. You, of course, have done a lot of short courses from global institution alongside with your formal degree, formal education. How
Mhm.
do these certifications complement formal learning? And students who have already enrolled in PGDM or MBA in product management, how should these students choose the right certifications from the global institutions or even, domestic institutions?
Yeah, I think the the certifications definitely it complements your basic your fundamental courses, whatever you're doing, right? So the bachelor degree gives you a foundation. It's like knowing all. So when you're doing engineering, you study all kind of streams in engineering, or all kind of topics within computer. Let's say you're studying computer science, you'd learn data science, you'd learn Java, Python, you'd learn AI and all the stuff, right? But then there'll be certain areas that you want to focus. So it's like when you're trying to get into a job, there'll be certain skills that are required for that job, and there's certain skills that you already have. So these short courses will help you to fill in the gaps. So to take my example, when I wanted to become a product manager, there were three areas, right? One is the tech engineering, then the design, then the business. So I had my base on engineering because of my bachelor degree, and I wanted to get a very high level understanding of design. So that's why if you see, most of my certifications are on design, and personally I liked that area. That's why I did like multiple certifications. But these short courses will help you to fill that gap. And then yeah, I also did a post graduation in business. That is because I wanted to go deeper. So if the area is just, it's all about fill in the blanks, you just want to get very high level knowledge to become eligible for a role, then just do certification, right? But again, it depends on the intent. You might want to go deeper, then I would suggest go for a PGDM or a longer course where you would get a credential, a validated credential that can be validated. And definitely when you're enrolling for something, you should also look at like whether it's valid. Is it just a certificate, or is it valid? Is it recognized by different universities and organizations? And how does it translate into the industry, right? Is it actually something that a recruiter would really see at you, look at your profile and see, okay, this he had done this one, so he or she might be good at this area, right? So it also helps you to build a profile. But when you're choosing a course, right, so again, it depends on the intent. If you just want to know something, if you want to when you have a very high level understanding, then go for a free course, right? These days there are a lot of AI tools available. Even those tools can create courses for you, right? So you just have to spend a lot of enough time to curate things together. If you're unable to do that, if you're unable to spend that much of time, then you should go for a curated course. There are like, again, free or paid courses, like there are product management boot camps and things like that, which are like curated contents, right? Industry experts would come and speak and things like that. So if you don't have time to do this yourself, then you can go for a curated course. Again, if you want to go much deeper, then you should go for a PGDM course, like what you have been discussing.
But that's actually a great point because, learning, or maybe, you know, learning all aspects of it doesn't mean that you do it without the intention. And it's, of course, definitely not just stacking certificates just for the sake of it. You have to have an intention to learn any area and each area wherever you're interested. So it's not just about learning everything, but learning only things which you are interested in. So that's a great, great point. I think we have moved and we are on the last question of our interview.
Mhm.
Sreejith, I have a very interesting question for you. Looking back at your journey from college to now, what is the one mistake which has taught you the most, and what would you do differently if you were starting again today?
Um, I would say that, I mean, not really a mistake, right? This is more to do with people who are interested in a area that are they're not really learning currently. For example, they're enrolled in a technical course, but still, or engineering course, but they wanna they kind of I mean, it's a 4-year course, right? So in the first 2-3 years, you kind of figure out that this is not the area that I want to be. I want to be in something else, right? So then I would suggest start preparing for whatever you want to do. Don't wait for the course completion. So for some reason I couldn't figure it out, to be honest. When I was in when I enrolled for the course in the 4 years, I was enjoying the course, and then when I figured it out, that's why I said it's not a mistake. That's how it happened in my life, where it took like 1.5 years of an engineering job for me to figure it out. I can do engineering, but I could do product management better, right? So uh, if you have that realization early in your education, I mean, you don't have to struggle to have that realization, but let's say you kind of know that, then I would say start preparing for it. I've seen a lot of people doing it these days. People who are at their 3rd year or 4th year, they're doing internships in project management or product analyst kind of roles, rather than doing engineering or engineering internships. So that's what I'm saying. If you know that you're not gonna stay in that career, then start preparing for. I would have done that, right? I would have done this switch a bit earlier. I would not have spent time being an engineer. It kind of helped me. It still helps, but I'm saying these days I see a lot of people who are coming straight out of college and they want to become product managers. So if you know that you're going to become a product manager while doing your course itself, then start planning for this, start spending or preparing, start spending time for that, because that course that you are in may not really give you the base for becoming something else, or a product manager.
That's such a humble and powerful takeaway, to be honest. Thank you. Thank you so much for answering that. And thank you so much for sharing your journey with such honesty and clarity. I am sure you have demystified the product part for students in a way that's very inspiring, but also extremely practical. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's
So,
yeah.
yes. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's a good feeling good to be here, right? It helped me to actually, like you, the last question, right? So it helped me to kind of summarize my journey so far. So when I was thinking about these questions, right? So I was able to think from day one, or maybe day one in my job till today. So it helped me to understand what happened. Maybe it took some, or maybe it helped me to structure my thoughts and share it, document it, maybe, right? So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. I'm sure a lot of people would, and especially students, they would be able to relate with you, because me, myself, being a student, I have switched careers. So this was extremely relevant, and you have kept it very practical for all of us. So me being from a different domain, I was able to understand each and every word which you explained. So thank you so much for explaining, and thank you so much for taking time.
Yeah, thank you. And I think just one piece, or maybe closing thoughts kind of thing, right? Something that I missed, or that I did not really emphasis on, because I was talking about my past, but so if you have someone who want to become a product manager or get into product manager, I would highly suggest them to start learning, or start gaining AI related skill, because that is becoming a major it's becoming a normal these days. So everyone who's hiring a product manager, they would expect the PM or the candidate to have some sort of AI skills. So it would help you in your personal or in your personal life as well, like I mentioned, in prototyping things, and getting your thoughts into action. So like you're saying, right, if I could have done something differently, I would have started using AI. I had opportunities, I would have started using AI a bit early in my career. So I would suggest everyone to do that as well.
And what do you suggest? How do students learn about AI? Are there any specific courses or certifications related to that, or do you suggest some platform to learn from, or how do somebody who have no idea about AI should build a competency or maybe an understanding on building products or maybe a small feature related to AI?
I would say, start with subscribing or following newsletters or things that can give you the latest on AI, right? First of all, but even before that, you should read. You should read about AI. Once you have basic understanding, you should start using free AI tools that are out there. Even Google, or whenever you're searching, it's AI today, right? So you have Perplexity and Google, and there are other tools, ChatGPT, and all the stuff, right? So it's very easy to start using AI. So start. I mean, be hands-on. Start using AI tools just for replace your search, Google search with AI tool. Google itself has a AI version, right? So start with that. Follow AI newsletters and things like that. Then there are a lot of free tools that helps product manager. There are a lot of coding tools that helps you to build prototypes. So if you want to be into product management, then start using those kind of tools as well. It will help you in the future to prototype and communicate your ideas with other stakeholders.
Thank you so much. That's a great tip. Would you be able to mention a few tools or AI technologies which product management students can, check upon?
I think, yeah, I mean, for market research and things like that, use Perplexity or use Google's Gemini. These are great tools. I don't know if there is a free version. There's a tool called Notebook LLM, which will help you to, it's again from Google, that will help you to connect it to different documents, and you can ask questions. It can even create a podcast like what we are doing, right? If you give it a document, it will automatically generate a podcast and things like that. So Notebook LLM, Perplexity, and Gemini, even ChatGPT has a ability to search. So if you are trying to replace your search with AI, use these tools. And there are tools like Lovable. I think Lovable is one tool which can vibe. It's called vibe coding these days, right? So you would just type in and you get the output as a functional product. So if you want to create prototype, use things like Lovable, and there are other. Just search for vibe coding tools. There are a lot of other tools. Even there's something called Claude from Anthropic that can also help you to code things. So there are tools. I don't want to take a lot of names, but right. So these kind of tools, vibe coding tools, can help you to not to build the product, but at least to prototype things in a better way.
That makes total sense, and that's very, very helpful. Thank you so much, Sreejith. Thank you. And once again, for all the students who are watching, please subscribe to Expert Matters by ISBR, and please follow Sreejith on LinkedIn. I have attached his LinkedIn profile in the description, so that if you have any questions related to building products or maybe related to any journey, real lessons, real journeys about product management, your career is your product, so build it well. Thank you so much, Sreejith, again. And thank you so much for your time and sharing all the info today.
Thank you. Have a nice day.